Ladies and gentlemen, cheers to another wonderful. We're blessed to be breathing right now. I'm just so happy to be here with you guys, especially my guests. Oh my goodness. Introduce yourself. How are you tonight, Stephen Hubbard?
I'm doing great. I'm Stephen Hubbard, reporting to you from the state of hockey in Minnesota.
There it is.
And just having a coffee, sitting here getting ready to finally get to chat with you and
yes,
see what's
how's
what.
The weather? How's the weather all the way up there? Northern USA for people who don't know.
The weather's been pretty good, nice and cool. It's hoodie weather.
Yes,
which is perfect. You know, looking forward to getting the fire going in the fire pit outside.
Oh, absolutely. If I can go outside and it's sunny, but still need a hoodie on, we're talking mint. We're dialed in.
Yeah, that's my time of year. Hoodie weather, love it. It's perfect.
We're on the same wavelength, Stephen. we're right there.
Right.
I love that. So I want to go to Minnesota and so Brian Bell, that does BellTube, the YouTube channel, BellTube, he lives up in where you're at, and I am a winter fan. I grew up, like I said, in northern Michigan, between Ohio, where I'm at now, in northern Michigan, and I miss the snow. I miss real snow. Where not here in Ohio, if you get an inch, everything's canceled for like a whole year. Like, everybody's tripping out. Nobody knows how to drive. Like, I learned how to drive in the snow. Nobody here knows how to drive in the snow. I want a real winter where there's snow on the ground for the whole season. You can go snowmobiling, right? Make a snowman with your kids. In Ohio, it's just muddy, dude. It's absolutely the worst. It's like winter's ugly cousin.
Yeah, definitely no fun. Yeah,
absolutely.
As far as snow goes, I grew up out in Western New York, so we got belted with the snow pretty heavy. So I'm very familiar with that.
The kind of snow where you open your front door and it's kind of hard to open because it's kind of snowed in.
Yeah, and then you just got to dig your way out.
Ah, that's awesome. Well, you live and you learn. So let's start here. Let's talk about your novel, the one, and correct me if I'm wrong. I always do my research. At least I hold myself to that standard. I hope I'm right. Your debut novel was A Conspiracy of Ravens?
Correct.
Okay, so would you tell us about just a summary, a synopsis for those who aren't familiar with A Conspiracy of Ravens, and kind of your plans, the name of the series, what your plan with the series is, just a little spiel.
All right. Well, Conspiracy of Ravens is the first installment of a longer series, of which the full name is The Codex of Wretches and Kings. A title I kind of went with because I'm dealing with common and some rather dark wretch-like characters, but also royalty as well. So you're getting mixed stories through there, and they kind of cross back and forth through each other. Interestingly enough, that title actually came from a Linkin Park song.
Hold on. What, the title came from a Linkin Park song?
Wretches and Kings. Yeah, that came from their oh boy, blanking on the album name now, but
I think that's incredible.
1,000 Suns.
Okay, yeah,
it came off of that, and it just fit really well. I like the term, so I went ahead with that. But the opening tale is one you've got. It's essentially an exploration of three darker characters who are ravens. Ravens are the term for the assassins and dark folk who do the bidding of the queen, who herself is not a very kind character. And what we've got at the beginning is one of these characters has murdered a baron and accidentally murders his son as well. And he finds the daughter in the house, and he decides to save her instead of doing away with her, because that's not an area he wants to go. And so he takes her to safety, and then it becomes the schemes between the royalty and the ravens, and there's another character who's kind of pulling some strings named the Shrike. and he wants the girl, and he doesn't know where she is. And the girl's a little smarter than everyone else tends to think too. So
I
she's
sensed
got a
that
little
really
more going
early.
on. She's got a little more going on than people realize. And ultimately, it's the beginning of a story of redemption for our three very dark characters. The question I asked myself as I was writing the book was, are there paths that you can walk that are too dark to be redeemed?
Mm.
And so that's the path that they are beginning to explore.
I'll tell you real quick, if I could, reading the beginning of the book, and you've already said the premise, which isn't you're not spoiling anything, just in case anybody is wondering. Like that scene where he chooses to do a good thing rather than that continued bad thing, and decides to kind of take the girl. It's like within the first 50 pages, my emotions have went up, down, because I always love a dark character that shows a little bit of humanity every now and then.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, right there, dude.
Yeah. It shows that there's a little bit of light still in there somewhere.
Yes. And I don't know why, but any book that I've read that's like that, where, and I know there's a lot of them, and I'm not saying every single one I caught that feeling as intense as I did with your novel and a couple others. But when it works, and you kind of contrast that dark and that light, and not just the possibility of the light, the actual choice of that not so good character, the very gray character, showing you as a reader there's humanity left in this guy, that you kind of threw that out the window as soon as you met him. Really.
Yeah.
I love that. So what I heard a little bit about a bigger series. What is your plans with Codex of Wretches and Kings, which, by the way, is one of the most badass series names I've ever heard.
Well, thank you.
The Codex of Wretches and Kings.
Thank you. It's always the trick, is like, what's going to work and what's going to thud, and to me it worked, so I just went with it.
I'm agreeing.
I'm just about done with the second book. It's taken a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but I'm at the point now where I'm just about ready to put the end on it. But there's a couple sections on it I've got to do a serious rewrite on. I've been not really happy with how it turned out. The upside is at least I got the main idea out, but I'm not really happy with the phrasing and just the flow of it. So I've got to go back. I've got to do a serious fix on it, but it's coming soon. But
okay,
presently in my mind, it's about a 9-book series.
Okay, I love
essentially
that.
3 trilogies put together to tell the full story. And I've got much of it mapped out. I'm pretty much set to go. So, and even now, with book 2 almost done, I've got probably a fifth of book 3 already done.
That's incredible. So thank you for that, sharing kind of some insight on your plans and kind of what's in the works. That's excellent. That kind of leads me into where I wanted to go. We'll come back to this, your writing that's current, your work in progress, in a minute. But could we start at the foundation real quick? And like I said, we'll work our way back to where we just were.
Sure.
When do you find that earliest memory of the love and passion you have for literature? When did you recognize that, and maybe why, or how did that happen for you?
Well, for me, book reading started very early. It was prior to kindergarten.
Wow.
My mom taught me to read,
Holy crap.
for which I am eternally grateful. She actually got in trouble with my kindergarten teacher because the teacher said,
"You're too smart."
Took her job away. It's her job to teach me to read, but I already knew how. But for me, it was a combination of things. It was seeing the Rankin Bass production of The Hobbit on television when I was a kid. That was my first awakening to Tolkien and his world, and then seeing Star Wars in the theater when that came out.
Ooh.
And those two things combined together, just the idea that somebody put those ideas out there, somebody thought of them and they put them into a story and they came up with that. And that's what I wanted to do. And my mom still has this memory of me writing a story in like second grade or something like that, which apparently got high marks. I have no memory of it.
Sure.
But I did know early on that it was what I wanted.
I can't imagine a pre-kindergartner. I have a kindergartner, and if he came to me reading a book, I'd be absolutely floored. So that's so impressive, man.
Yeah, well,
kudos to mom.
Definite kudos to mom. I still have somewhere a copy of the Fables and Fairy Tales book that she taught me to read.
That's so cool.
I'd long ago lost the original, but I found a copy of it and I actually gave it to my son.
Oh, wow.
And I'm hoping he still has it. I don't know if he does, but stuff moves around a lot.
No, I get it. In case you guys didn't get a good glimpse at it while I held it up, because it's hard to kind of show when it's on camera, check that bad boy out. Dear God. I mean, that says a lot. It's like a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's like I could probably go over 1,000 with this one. It just says so much. And the subtle ruin or castle in the back, I love it, man. So real quick, if you could, before we dive back into kind of the foundation, who did your artwork?
Full tip of the hat on that goes to Mandy at Stone Ridge Books.
Mandy at Stone Ridge?
Absolutely perfect cover. I couldn't have asked for anything better. She sent me 2 covers. She gave me 2 mock-ups. And
can I show the second one?
I don't have the second one. You can show the second book if you want.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure that was all good. So,
absolutely, for sure.
What's the title? Are you telling the title for book 2?
Title of that one is A Plague of Ghosts.
Just another wonderful title. Check it out. It doesn't disappoint either. It's got the subtle points in the background. I love it's a lot of shading. I love that. It's epic. I think you hit the gold mine, the vein, if you will, picking Mandy. She's awesome.
Yeah, well, she got recommended to me, and she's able to turn it around pretty good, and she does a fantastic job. I'm thrilled with the work she did.
Speaking of moms, mine's never here to see these interviews, and I think she heard Mother 3 times like Beetlejuice. What's up, Mom? So that was cool. Good to see you, Mom. She's like, oh, that book stuff. I think she would read if she could pay attention. That was my issue for the longest time, because mine isn't that story where I started early. Yeah. It was I found reading in a kind of a dark place, and I'm glad I did. But I also wish that I would have started earlier. But I'm catching up.
But you're there.
I'm gonna have all exactly.
Welcome to the club. You're good.
I'm so glad to be here. I swear.
The door is always open.
Such a huge mental, a really good thing for me mentally. I didn't really have that creative outlet. Yeah. So, okay. So go ahead. I mean, sometimes there's a lag, by the way, guys, and I'm so sorry. We don't mean to interrupt each other. We're both gentlemen, I promise.
Yeah, mostly. It's just reading for me was always an outlet. In the area of town where I grew up, I was just on the outside edge of the city, just moving into all the farmlands. So there weren't a lot of people around. A lot of kids my age. The school I went to was half an hour away.
Oh, wow.
That's if I drove. It was even longer by bus. So there was a lot of reading on the bus. And there just really wasn't a whole lot to do. I mean, they didn't even get cable TV in my area until I moved away.
Wow.
As an adult. They started coming one way, and then they stopped, and then they started coming this way, and then they stopped. And there was a section right in the middle of all of it where nobody got it for years. And so, but that was the big new thing, was cable.
I
Showing my
remember
original
like
that I
HBO
suppose.
coming out.
Yeah.
I don't remember cable coming out. I was born in '90, so I'm assuming it was probably about that time.
Yeah, this was
And
in the mid '80s. So
okay, mid '80s.
yeah.
And a bored teenager can take some incredibly bad routes in life. So to choose reading when you're bored rather than drugs or violence or thieving or what have you, a million other things,
Oh, for sure.
you chose constructively, and I think that's super strong.
Yeah. So
I wish
it
I could
went.
say the same.
Yeah, I went immediately into reading. Always reading. Age 13, right in the middle of that time frame of everything, was Dungeons and Dragons. That's when I got introduced to that. I got the original Red Box Beck Me set that Frank Menser did, and that was my introduction to that. And so you want to talk about opening up a fantasy floodgate for someone's imagination, and that's really where the creation of my own worlds began. In
I wish I could go back and apologize to every one of my buddies I made fun of for playing that dungeon. Like I'm envious now. It's like you were living in the future and I was not. I get it. Like it's the foundation for so many people I've talked to on this channel. Such an influence. Yeah. I yearn for the day that I have people in my area that I'm sure I could find them. I'm sure there's a group somewhere to play that way. I just don't have the time right now, but when I do, I want to experience kind of making your own characters and then kind of playing with it. And, it just seems so fun.
Oh, and I'll tell you, expanding off of that, like a year and a half ago, I got the kids involved and I ran them through those early adventures from the old Red Box, and absolutely hysterical. I mean, it was so much fun just getting them into that, and they seem to really enjoy that. But it's been a little bit tougher to do it now. Two of the kids are moved out.
Yeah.
So there's only two left, and they tend to keep themselves pretty busy. And but one of the best gifts I ever got for Christmas, my grandparents got me essentially at that time every hardcover advanced Dungeons and Dragons book that was available.
Wow.
And they all are still over there on my shelf. I
was going to say, your library is freaking awesome, by the way.
Yeah, that's like 2/10 of it right there.
2/10. All right. Yeah. Dude, I love that.
So, but they helped fuel all of that. So always grateful.
Was there a time you remember where, and this is kind of a selfish question, I just want to know, where you felt it was the easiest point to come to your kids with literature, maybe at bedtime, or they're bored on the weekend? And I don't know. I guess what I'm asking is I want to have a sense of when the best time, the most impactful, and that's kind of type of books maybe I should be bringing to them. I'm not trying to overthink it. I think I might be, but
yeah, don't overthink. There's a lot of great kids books out there. And I had a lot of it available to me. I worked at the Barnes and Noble at the Mall of America for 14 years.
Isn't it tempting just to steal everything, right?
No, I got a pretty good discount, so it was always good. But I was one of the assistant managers there for a number of years. And so you saw every kid's book that came into place. These days, I don't really know what's there. I haven't walked through a Barnes & Noble kids section in years. I haven't needed to.
Brandon Sanderson's got one out now, kids book.
Yeah.
I know it's called like the most boring book in the world or something like that.
Nice. That should get sales.
What is it?
That'll get sales.
Oh, yeah, of course it would.
For sure. He doesn't even have to title it. He can just put his name on it.
Yeah. You know how it's fun. I was telling my wife the other day how most, indie or self-pub authors and most traditionally published authors too, like have a cover reveal and all that before. All Brandon Sanderson has to do is have a gray background that says Brandon Sanderson and the date, and then
Yep.
bad boys are gone. They're
Yep.
gone. He doesn't need a cover reveal.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Just thought that was interesting.
And I still think pound for pound for like epic fantasy right now, he's the guy.
That's what I hear.
And I've thought that for a few years now. But he's, for me, there's nobody better. Just as I don't think there's anybody better in my mind for sci-fi than Christopher Rocchio.
Mm-hmm.
He's absolutely phenomenal. And that last book of his, which is,
are you caught up on the series?
I am, yeah.
Oh, Steven, I knew we'd get along. Man, yeah. I tell you what, Christopher Rocchio was a guy like, I read Joe Burns' Wistful Ascending. That was my very first sci-fi. And then kind of went directly into Empire of Silence. And holy crap, dude, like talk about an impactful book.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not caught up, but I want to be. Does that make sense? Like I'm glad that experience is ahead of me. Yeah. But gosh, am I excited for it?
Well, the worst part about being caught up is you have to wait.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're coming to the end now, so it's almost over.
So how did you start reading him early, Christopher Rocchio days?
I started right away. I was reviewing each of his books for bookreporter.com at the time. Okay. So they would send me the advances, and I would get to read them, you know, a pretty good bit ahead of time.
Isn't that a giddy feeling when you get an advanced copy of something? Like,
oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's always nice to get it like 2 months ahead of somebody else. And it's funny because like you'll post a review somewhere or you'll comment about it. And people say, well, how do you know? I'm like, well,
yeah. Well, I got a story. Let me tell you.
That's right. It's fun, man. You'll get it in a couple of months. It'll be great.
I think also it's great to note that authors need to have fans of the book able to kind of give it that yes or no before it's released, because I had no idea that this was the experience, but I've heard this a lot, that release day is kind of boring, a little uneventful. It's the following few months or what have you that start to build up, because nobody's got the book until it's released.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, thankfully, you know, over the course of doing reviews for that site, I, you know, got pretty friendly with Christopher. He was actually kind enough to read A Conspiracy of Ravens before.
Dude, I was going to say, he blurbed your shit.
He did. And there will never be enough ways for me to thank him for doing that.
If he recommends a book, it's guaranteed read.
And especially now, like he doesn't have time to read some random guy's book. But the fact that he took the time to do that for me speaks volumes of what a really sincere guy he is.
Yes.
Just a genuinely good person. So like now I've known him for like 3 or 4 years. I've still never met him.
Well, that's quite the distance. I think I'm closer to North Carolina. Yeah, well, obviously Ohio's a little closer. That's quite a drive.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that next year, it sounds like Texas is going to be the place to go, where Ryan Cahill, Christopher Rocchio, I think they're going to go back. They just did it. But I think what I've heard is Mike said that they had such a good time and a good turnout that they plan on doing it again next year. And I'm getting a babysitter, and me and the wife's driving down.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I'll have to look for the dates on that. I might have to make a field trip myself.
Yeah, that would be so fun. And it's kind of just like they get together and it's like an auditorium or something, or a Barnes and Noble, and they just kind of throw ideas and questions and have a good time with it, nerd out on books that they wrote.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So, I love that. And that I also wanted to say about Chris, guys, when I had him on the channel, I was talking to him about other interviews that he'd done, because he was doing so many. He was on a guy's podcast here on YouTube, had 30 subscribers, and he was on Daniel Green's, over 500,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
That right there, I believe, is one of the most important parts to being a successful author.
He makes time for people, which I think is great.
Every single fan, anybody that came to, it's like, that is respectable. I absolutely love that outlook, because that 30 people on this, you know, if they 2 or 3 of them watch it, it's a trickle effect. And taking time for those that aren't necessarily huge accounts just shows a lot of humanity, which is another reason to read somebody's book.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always
Incredible.
nice to reward the good things.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about when you started writing A Conspiracy for Ravens, and maybe some inspirations, as well as, are you a pantser or are you an outliner?
Yes.
Yes to all of it?
Yes. I am a outlining pantser.
That's what I hear the most.
So I do not do a hard and fast outline. But I do have a number of scenes laid out in my head, and I drop them all down. I've got them written out ahead of time. The first 3 books I've actually got pretty well.
The endings?
Yeah, I know how everything ends.
Okay.
All along the way. But I've got gaps in between, like plot point A and plot point B.
Sure.
And for me, it's more enjoyable to just kind of ride the story and see where it goes. I've never had an issue where I don't know what to do. You know, that's everyone's fear, is if you don't have it all plotted out, you don't know what's going to happen.
Is
to
it
me, that's
the
fun
freedom
part.
that you need?
Yeah, I want to see where the characters take me. And like the character of Galicer, the king, one of the kings in there, he didn't exist.
Oh, wow.
He never existed in my initial outline. He showed up.
He invited himself into your prose.
And there he is, and I love him, and I like him even more in book 2.
That is one of the biggest reasons I was instantly attracted to be an aspiring writer, right there. To experience that has to be incredible.
Yeah, it's so much fun. So I do think you have to have some idea of where you're going. But
sure.
But for me, I've got to be able to explore the world that's there underneath everything.
So the rules not being written down for you to follow gives you the creative freedom that is a plus for you.
Correct.
All right. I think that I can relate with a lot of that, because I tried to just pants that zero continuity. From one day to the next, it was not happening.
Yeah. So that's, you know, for me, it works. There's some people I know, they've got to structurally plan that thing out from top to bottom. And then there's other people, they just open up a Word document and just start, and off they go.
It's so individual.
Yeah. So, you know, they always say there's all these rules. I have yet to find anyone that works for everybody. You know, you've got to find what works for you. Interestingly enough, too, this time around with the second book, I've kind of done a hybrid of the way I'm writing it. Half of it has kind of been written on my computer, and the other half I've been writing by hand.
Is that fun? I feel like that would be like a nostalgic feel. Is it?
Well, it is nostalgic, because when I first started writing everything, it was all by hand, until I got that typewriter for Christmas.
Heck yeah.
But the thing that I've enjoyed more about that, and I think book 3, I'm actually going to end up doing entirely by hand and then transfer.
Wow.
It makes me slow down. You know, and you know, people might think that's a bad thing, but I think it forces you to sit in what you're writing.
Ooh.
And it makes you think about everything that you're really putting down. And I've found that the stuff that I've handwritten has come out much better than the stuff that I was typing.
Like you put more you've invested in more that is being physically written. It's a process too. It's an act. It's you actually being mechanical.
Yeah, because, you know, I can't handwrite as fast as I can type.
Sure.
And so then the beauty is, so I've been handwriting on my iPad in just their little note, whatever it is.
Their pen?
Yeah. And then all I do is I go ahead and I cut and paste it, and I carry it over to my Mac and drop it, and it transfers it all into typed text. So then in my
editor, pretty accurate.
it's mostly accurate. I'd say about 90, 92%.
Wow.
And then my editing pass, part of it is just correcting those things that didn't transfer properly. And then, cleaning everything up from there. But
So not enough.
I've found there's been less cleanup on the stuff that I've written at a slower pace.
Wow. I had thought about that, if it was possible to kind of start to write or just write a whole novel on, because my wife has the pen for her iPad.
Yep.
And I've played with it and I think it's super cool. But
Yeah.
how to do that evaded me until you just told me. And then the second thing that came to mind was the accuracy in which my terrible handwriting will be picked up. And even at 92 or 93% accurate, like it's worth it at that point still.
Yeah. Yeah. If for nothing else, try it just for a day and see how it works.
I will.
But even if the handwriting aspect, if it doesn't translate everything well enough, try a day of writing slower so that you write neater.
Okay.
And then getting it to transfer over. But
I like that.
I don't, unless I'm trying to get something down really, 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 really fast, I don't write in cursive.
Okay.
I write everything in just block letters, all caps, but it knows not to do that when I transfer it over. So
that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
That is excellent. And honestly, it's the first time I've heard somebody tell me about that. And I've seen other writers use, I don't remember the name. It's a similar to what you're saying, like an iPad with a pen, but it actually looks like Remarkable. That's it. Yeah. Dude, them things are pricey.
Yes, they are. And I've already got an iPad, so I'll stick with that.
Yeah. I'm sure that there's advantages to that the iPad doesn't have, or this or that. I don't know. But they essentially, and from what I understand, not have using them, use either one. Well, I've used the iPad, but not the Remarkable. It can't be that big of a difference to where I'm going to pay double just to have Remarkable's brand. Either way, I think it's really cool. I think Rob J. Hayes was the guy that posted about it.
Yep, he just posted about it the other day.
I think he's enjoying it, which is great. I'm so happy for him. But I think I'm like you. I want to try it with the iPad, and maybe if I get like super serious about it one day, we'll upgrade to the Remarkable.
Yeah. But so getting back to the original line of the question.
Absolutely.
Which was when I started writing.
Yes, sir.
To be honest, a good number of the characters and chunks of storyline and plot, I actually started when I was 15 years old.
That's so cool.
And it's all stuff that's been built on. And I still have the old handwritten sheets, and I've got type sheets. I've got an old map that I drew. All this stuff still kicking around.
That's so awesome.
Now you go back and you read it now, and you're like,
well, stepping stone, right?
This, but it was a step,
Absolutely.
But life got in the way. All kinds of stuff gets in the way as you go through life. If there was ever a regret I had, it would be that I didn't get right down and do it.
Sure.
Earlier. But this really got going in April of 2021. The company I was working for was going through some changes. They were shifting management around.
Fun times.
I was one of the managers at one of the places, and they switched around some upper management people, and we ended up getting stuck with this guy who was a very micromanaged kind of guy. It was one of those, you have to message me when you get into the office. You have to message me when you do this, when you do that, when you do this. You have to explain to me why this happens every day.
Poor guy.
And then you have to contact me at the end of the day and ask me if you've done enough work and it's okay to go home.
Or you're in trouble.
And after a few weeks of that, I was like, you know what? This isn't really going to work. Talked to my wife. She says, let me call you back. She called me back. She goes, I looked at some things. Go ahead and quit.
Team player.
So I quit, and we got me set up here in my office, and I had my desk, and starting I quit April 1st. I think I started writing on April 6th. The first draft was done the week before the wedding in June.
Wow.
Went on our honeymoon, came back, did an editing pass, did another real quick edit, found an editor, got Mandy to do the art, and put it out in June of 2022.
You cleared that rubble, that bump in the road that was holding you back, and now the path has been cleared for you to take hold of it.
Yeah, and all credit there goes to the missus. She made it all possible. So
isn't it always the misses that are just there exactly the time we need them?
Yeah,
even if we don't deserve it.
She's an absolute angel. I'm so thrilled. So she's made a dream that I had possible, and she's been super supportive. And she's, I dedicated the book to her. That first one.
Yes, you did.
And then, she's
it's a beautiful thing, man.
She doesn't read, and she read the book.
Okay.
So the fact that I could get somebody who doesn't even read to read the book, I think was pretty good.
Yes, it is. And I love the fact that you brought up kind of what that support, that your wife, the team player, the support system, that is such a big thing. Like writing process aside and tropes and all that jargon, let's start at the foundation. And that's the people we have that love us in our life, or we love. Because without them, so I think you had a great story, man. I think that's perfect. Yeah, what's going on, man? Okay, I've been here from the beginning. Oh yeah, right. Don't lie to me, man. You just popped in here. I'm just playing. No, he's always here. Thanks, brother. Enoch, you got lucky enough to be. Oh, okay, yes, that's the time I was talking about. Christopher Rocchio was there in Houston. That's awesome, dude. I'm super jealous because I got to see pictures and stuff, and the whole time, this is a new phrase. I'm not hip, but it's new to me, and I'm going to use it because I feel hip when I say it. But I had FOMO, and I just learned what that meant. That I think fear on missing out, and that was in complete
horrible disease.
It is. And let's see real quick. I think I missed David, my bearded brother, my brethren. What's going on, man? Thank you for the office compliment. It's been a long time coming. Me and my wife finally have a spot where we can lock the kids out, right? We actually have an electric fence out front. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, it's nice to kind of have our stuff in a spot where we know what's going to happen to it, especially the books. Like, I don't want nobody touching my books. It's not like this crazy serious thing, but it is kind of serious.
Yeah.
I take it very seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's nice. It's a lot less stress. Takes a little weight off. So thank you for saying that, man. So you're a pantsing outliner. I get that. I feel like I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Are there? I'm trying to think of how to word this. Let's talk about tropes for a second, because this is an area where I want to learn more and kind of differentiate between one trope and another a little bit better. So I'm going to ask you some of your opinions. Are there any tropes that you just absolutely love, and the exact opposite? Are there any tropes that you just hate?
No, because
I like that.
Depending on what you're doing and how you're going to implement them, it could change the entire way that trope is utilized and the way it's revealed. It's like, I'm trying to remember that phrase. There's a phrase. One thing you have to remember is that nobody writes like you.
Absolutely.
And so it doesn't, you could have the most tired and boring trope out there in the world, but if you can take it and you can twist it somehow and just apply your own spin on it, you could make it work. And that's all it takes, is just putting the right spin on the right trope at the right time.
I love that.
I don't think there's any that are inherently bad, and I don't think that there's any that you've just got to go with. I mean, tropes are tropes kind of for a reason. I mean, they kind of work.
Yeah.
And if they didn't work, they would just disappear, and then they wouldn't be anything.
I have favorites, but I don't have like kind of like you said, I don't have any that are off the chart where I'm not going to read it. In fact, making it that serious of a decision or deciding factor in the book you're going to read is maybe a little not fair to yourself, really. For instance, I'll never get tired of the tavern and mead and music.
For sure.
And it just makes me a happy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes this 34-year-old feel like a kid.
Yeah. But that's the thing that's appealing about that trope too, is there are so many people that have had that experience, whether it's in reading or in gaming, throughout their life, that it harkens you back to a time where you remember. Like for me, like when I think of the tavern trope, immediately my brain goes to Dragons of Autumn Twilight by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman.
What's it called?
Dragons of Autumn Twilight. It's the opening book in the Dragonlance Chronicles.
Dragons. Ooh, I haven't. I've heard so many wonderful things. I'm so excited.
My brain immediately goes there when I do the tavern thing, and it's not a bad thing because I have great memories of going back and reading that book. And
yes,
and they've got a great anniversary edition of that coming out early next year.
Ooh.
A nice black with gold foil and everything. It looks beautiful. I saw
I'm ready. I'm spending.
Yeah, I saw George had made a comment there.
Yes, there he is.
I have to shout out George.
Shout him out.
George is an absolute gem of a man. When I lived in Florida, George was down there. We worked at American Express together down there, Fort Lauderdale, and this was 93 to 97, right? 95 to 97, right in there. So second edition Dungeons and Dragons was king at that point. And I had been away from the game for a handful of years after I'd gotten out of high school. And George ran a campaign on Sundays after football was over. And he lured me in there and got into getting back into the game with a fun crew of guys. And he had probably the single best D&D campaign I've ever taken part in. It was absolutely extraordinary.
When you say Dungeons and Dragons campaign, it was the very specific campaign that he was running with the choices he made, and
yes,
and
he created the whole thing.
Okay, so that's what people mean when they say a campaign.
Yeah, it was his whole world. He created it and had the whole thing going. It was not a pre-written module.
Gotcha.
And an absolute blast to be a part of. And George he actually he went bookstore shopping one day, and he came back with a hardcover of Stephen Donaldson's White Gold Wielder.
Oh, wow.
And he gave that to me because I'm a huge Donaldson fan. Donaldson's one of the main reasons I ever wanted to be a writer. And I opened it up, and the thing was signed.
Wow.
So, as a matter of fact,
grab that thing, man. That's what we do here on live.
It's right here.
Yes.
So I still have it. This was from George.
George, you good son of a gun, you. White Gold Wheel. That is amazing.
So I now have many more signed Stephen Donaldson books, but
so I need to read them.
The first one that I got, and George is now my main alpha reader.
Okay.
So he looks at everything, and he tells me whether it's crap or whether it's good. Thankfully, most of it's been good. He offers up some really great suggestions on how to fix some things, but if there's a guy whose opinion I trust more, they don't exist.
Man, that is rare to have in your life, in anybody's life.
Yeah. So
That trustworthy voice.
he's the guy behind the scenes that kind of makes sure the work is where it should be.
Oh, he's spoiling it. He says it's awesome.
He has read a good chunk of the beginning.
That reminds me of that Big Bang Theory where he's like, no, you shouldn't have told me it blown your mind. Now my mind's pre-blown going into it. Well, good, man. It's good to hear about you, George. I hope you come back and we can talk someday or something. You sound like a great dude, and I'm glad you're supporting an author that I know now is wonderful. So that's incredible.
Just a
Vader's
father. How did you? Oh, I didn't even watch that yet. Anyway, the spoiler. We don't want George's head to get too big, but the character of Martin is somewhat modeled after him.
Because that's gonna work. You tell a guy that is awesome, hey, I named the character after you. Better not get. I love that though. A friendship that is built on trust and good conversation. I love that. What was the character you said?
Martin, one of the 3 ravens.
Yes, I love that. How did you come up? By the way, I was always curious after realizing it. Raven, assassin. How did those 2 things come together?
Complete accident.
Okay.
Originally, they were just, they were dark cloaks. And then I got into this idea of bird themes, and because I had the Shrike. And so then I went with crows.
Sure.
But then as I was trying to think of a name for the book, the whole concept, and then the fact that, because I didn't like A Murder of Crows, it's far too common. But then I saw underneath it, there was A Conspiracy of Ravens, which is what a group of ravens is called. I'm like, well, that's perfect because it works on 2 levels.
I did not know that.
It's a multitude of ravens, but also the book is full of conspiracies. It worked on both levels. So crows became ravens. That was the change right there.
I feel like that should have been obvious to me, but it wasn't.
Some people don't know it. I mean, like, I'd heard it before, but it was just, Murder of Crows is so common. That's the one.
But see, it's not. I didn't appreciate that title as much as I do now. Like I'm glad that I know that, and I'm glad you said. I think anybody who kind of maybe didn't know that a group of ravens was a conspiracy would absolutely. That's a level up. Like, I love that play on words.
Yeah, and like I said, pure accident. It was not the original intent, but we got there because I'm a loose pantser.
Yeah, no, I love that. And what that says to me is a lot of what, when I have the time, I don't know if I ever had the time, but when I make the time to do, to write seriously, sounds like exactly what I want to do. I can't just pants, and I don't want to outline absolutely every detail. I want to have an idea of where I'm headed, with the freedom of being creative.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you touched on Stephen Donaldson, because that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you and I hadn't gotten to yet. Those impactful authors to you, who are you recommending, and whose prose do you absolutely just love?
Well, in my life, there's been nobody better than Tolkien.
Okay.
I know he does not work for everybody because he can be pretty flowery and wordy.
Flowery, yeah.
Yeah.
I love him too.
And I get that, but the guy is an absolute genius.
Yeah.
And there's, I've got a whole shelf over here, top to bottom, that's nothing but Tolkien.
And ambitious. Holy crap.
Yeah. And, so he's always my top. Donaldson is always right there at number 2.
What kind of book, how is the feel of Donaldson's writing? Is it darker? Is it more epic?
He can be darker for sure.
Okay.
I don't think you could put him like along the lines of Joe Abercrombie
Okay.
or John Gwynn or anybody like that in terms of darkness, but he's definitely darker than Tolkien was.
But epic fantasy.
Yes.
Okay.
And so his Chronicles of Thomas Covenant was where it started for me. And then he did a science fiction series called The Gap. And then he got back to fantasy. He's actually written some mysteries too. He had done mysteries
Oh, wow.
an alternate name, Reed Stevens.
Doesn't have the ring to it like Stephen Donaldson does.
No, well, you want to separate them.
Sure.
Eventually, he put them all out again in hardcover with his real name.
He did the Stephen King thing.
Yeah.
Oh, they found out. Let's just tell them.
Once everyone found out who he was, you got to do that. So
who's Bachman? I don't even know a guy named Bachman.
Right. And then he did another trilogy that just wound up a few years ago. And that's been the last thing I've seen from him so far.
I've been recommended to read Covenant a lot.
Yeah, that series, like I said, Tolkien was the fuel, and then reading Donaldson, that was the fire for me.
Oh, okay.
Those two together, it just ignited everything I wanted to do.
That is so cool, and I love hearing that.
And along the way, like, I liked C.S. Lewis, but his stuff was a little more geared toward the younger readers, but there's a lot of depth in there too that older readers can take from it.
Yes.
I did Tad Williams, The Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series.
I'm reading that now, and holy crap, I'm already loving it.
Such an amazing series.
It starts out just like my Trope Love. Taverns, a kid that's like kind of shit on, and I'm cheering for him, and we're hoping and I'm believing he's going to make it somewhere.
Well,
I don't know where yet.
I was jealous. I saw you posted those broken binding editions.
Oh, it's my favorite book I own.
And I'm not subscribed, so I didn't get into the buy-in on that. But I had the original hardcovers that came out back in the day. And the last time I moved, 2 of them are gone.
Oh.
I don't know where they've gone. And Tad had signed them.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I met him back when the final volume of the Otherland series came out. Was it Sea of Silver Light? And he signed pretty much everything I had.
That is amazing.
He was super great, and a couple of those things have just gone missing now. So it breaks my heart. I need to reread them, but I don't have the time right now. But Steven Eriksson's series is...
Oh, Malazan. Are you a Malazan fan?
Oh, absolutely. Wow. I picked up Gardens of the Moon only because the blurb on the front was from Stephen Donaldson.
Yeah.
And for me, it was the point of, if he's going to recommend it, I'll give it a shot.
That's my Christopher Rocchio.
You just don't see his name on a lot of things. So if he's going to put his stamp on something, I'll give it some attention and see where it goes. And that was such a great series, but it's been, years since I've read it. I do need to go back.
Maybe I'll have the balls to read it someday. It's very intimidating to me.
It can be, there's a lot of people and there's a lot of story.
I second guess myself, and that's not good when there's 500 points of view.
Yeah. Well, what? Just don't do that. It's like the
trust the author.
Right? You just jump in.
Okay. I will.
And then what's the worst that can happen? You get into it and you're like, yeah, this just isn't for me. And you just set it aside. You're done.
True.
Get out of the pool and go find the next one. There is a guy who always gets lost in all the conversation about great fantasy work. And I got to be pretty decent friends with him, again, through distance. Guy I never met, but we spoke back and forth a lot. Is John Marco.
Okay.
And John Marco did a 4-book series, which is kind of like loosely called the Bronze Knight series. The Eyes of God is the first book. It was a book that I picked up in a discount bin, hardcover. Somebody had read it as an advance and didn't want it anymore, so they gave it. I bought it for like $3, and I read it in like 2 days.
Oh, wow.
Just a phenomenal book. And he did that. He has a series before that that he did for Bantam. The Jackal of Nar was the first book. The Grand, I can't remember the name of the series, but the Jackal of Nar is the first book, which was so good. Then he did kind of a teen kind of title, and then after that, they just kind of dropped him, and he kind of disappeared. Last year, he did self-publish a new book called The Bloody Chorus. That is it. The Eyes of God.
Tad Williams on there on the blurb.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's such a good book. And I've always been really disappointed that he never got more of a following, because he certainly deserved it. And he's got the new book that's out now, but for a guy that was in the publishing world, to have been let go, he came back to kind of self-publish, and we talked about it. He asked me how it was going and how it works. The difference is, like, for me, selling a couple hundred copies was great.
Sure.
Like, it's my first book. I've never sold a thing. I don't have a marketing department. It's just me, like, sending a book out to Mike's Book Reviews and hoping he'll read it. Sending it out to Petrick and all these other people, just kind of hoping somebody would give it a shot.
Staples in the community, for sure.
Putting something on X, putting something on Facebook, just anything you can do to just kind of draw some people. I don't have, the marketing dollars that, like a DAW Books has. For him to come from that to self-publish, to try to see what happens, I don't know that he got the response that he was really hoping he would get, which is a shame, because the new book was really good. I really liked it a lot.
Brian D. Anderson, another guy that comes on and off in the chat, and I've had on the channel. He's an author, but he was a self-pub author, like, when it was very, very new.
Yeah.
Then he went traditional publishing, and now he's back to sub, and he still does some traditional publishing work. I believe another guy is Michael J. Sullivan. I know
Michael J. Sullivan does a lot that way now.
But I believe he's done traditionally published stuff too.
Yep.
So yeah, it's different. I don't think a lot of people do it or have that opportunity, but it certainly is a fun topic to kind of discover. They're two different, very, very different things. Traditionally published and self-publishing, but
they're two different worlds. And
sure.
The sad part is that the self-publishing world, they tend to still kind of get looked down on.
I think that's coming to an end soon.
Well, and it would be nice, although, now we've got that problem of people attempting to flood the market with AI generated books and things like that. Like, it's just like one shot in the foot after the other with some of this stuff. But
I think that the protection to weed that out will be within our capabilities of having on our computer. Well, I don't know, in some tangible way, to keep those who don't want anything to do with that, like publishers, stuff like that, to use as a tool very soon. Because think about it, if people engineer AI, whatever they are creating, they can engineer something to look out for the things that make that specifically unique.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be a tool that will help us. Now, I'm a firm believer that there are things that AI will help with. But when it comes to creative things where people earn a living and put their heart and soul into a book, and then you just push enter with a premise, there's no way. I mean, how can you expect somebody to truly look up to that? And how can you as a person feel fulfilled?
Right.
But I think those
You know,
tools will be very, very abundant.
but a lot of it is just, people, they're not looking to be fulfilled. They're just looking to add
Yeah.
money to the bank account. So they
Money.
don't care.
Yeah.
But, and then one of the other downsides that we've got now is there are certain authors who are really taking a long time in getting their books out.
Oh, sure.
And I know I have felt it personally, where I've actually had people tell me, I will not start your series until it's completely done because I've been burned by person X or person Y.
I've heard of those people and I've never met one.
And it's so frustrating
I'll
because
bet.
you can't generate interest in a new series with people that won't read your book because it's not done yet.
Yes. I don't think it's fair.
And
I mean, life's not fair, but at the same
no,
time, it's not fair. It's not fair.
You kind of do what you can to try to talk them into it anyway. But some people, they're very firm on this now because
Well, what do you say?
Want to
Like,
wait 11 years between a book,
like I promise there's going to be 3 books, and unless I'm dead, it'll be there. Like, is that how that how it would have to go?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But
That's crazy to me.
But again, you can't promise that. You never know what's going to be from day
You're right.
to day. Like anything can happen.
But I also can't imagine me investing so much emotional currency into a book that it would matter that much. Like, yes, it's a passion of mine, and I sure love a lot of authors. But let's just say one of them doesn't finish the series, my life will go on.
Yeah.
Maybe I can enjoy the first 5 books and have a great time with them and hope that they're finished.
Yeah.
That's my outlook.
Yeah. Yeah. But myself personally, I've never been I'm not going to start that series until it's all done.
It never crossed my mind.
No, it's like, if something looks interesting to me, I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
That's for me, that's how it goes.
I love that take on it. I do. I respect it. And yeah, I think that's good that you're talking about. That's a hurdle that you've come to with your experience. And I'm glad you talked about it. That's a little gold nugget. We're always looking for gold nuggets. And I love learning about it. And with that experience, you have a lot of that. Without that experience, you're kind of just guessing. So these conversations help me and so many other people. And it's those little tidbits, inside information that you've dealt with your experience that we're so grateful for.
We're all on the same path sometimes, sometimes you just need someone to tell you can get through it. And this is how it worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you.
By the way, I don't know if you saw it, but somebody with the same last name as you, named Diane, she thinks you're cool.
Well, she's not wrong.
No, I didn't think so. I mean, I know so, but I didn't know if you've seen that or not.
Thank you, Diane. You're cool too.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're here, Diane. Yeah, I want to say something, Cinna. I have started it like 876 times on audio, and the audio is a specific type of listener that's going to love it. Like, the guy is very excited to be there. He is very overly dramatic, which works some of the time. And in fact, I think it works a lot of the time. But when I'm trying to go to sleep is when I listen to audiobooks. And this guy's just got too much energy for me when I'm trying to sleep. He does the English accent very well. Now, he may be English, and that could just be his normal, but it's very gritty, I guess is what I'm saying. Either way, I think I will start it again with the audio and hopefully finish at least Gardens of the Moon in the next year. And especially, I didn't know that, Senna, that you loved it. So that's great. I trust your recommendations, and pretty much anything you've recommended that I've read has been really good. Do you remember actually, we already talked about that. So if you had the chance to co-author, let's just say a trilogy, you and this other author of your choosing can write 3 books together, create a world, blah, blah, blah. Who would that be for you?
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I don't even know who I would choose, and I'm asking it.
Boy, that's tough.
That would be one hell of an opportunity, right? To choose that.
It would. Well, I'm sure, like for a lot of people, the goal would be to find somebody else who's already famous.
Sure.
That way you can ride some coattails. You kind of got a built-in thing. But, and I certainly probably wouldn't say no if anything like that was offered. But I would say the trick is trying to find somebody whose style is similar.
Absolutely.
That would be the toughest part. Because there's some great people who do some awesome stuff that I wouldn't mind working with, but I don't know stylistically. I mean, I could always try to change it up. I know I've written in other styles before.
Okay.
So like the Conspiracy of Ravens for me is a little denser than some of the other stuff that I've written. I've done stuff, I would compare it as a very mild Donaldson, but I've also written stuff like in the style of Robert E. Howard's Pulp Fiction type stuff for Conan and Solomon Kane and things like that. So I'm able to do that too. But man, if I
would have to come down as a lot of thought for it, huh?
It would.
I think I would choose Christopher Rocchio because he'd push me. He would push me to be what I want to be, I guess is what he would push me to be what I want. Like I'm nowhere near him. So if I had the opportunity,
push. Boy, I'm just trying to look at my shelves here. You know who it would be? Robin Hobb.
Oh wow, yes. Character work at its finest.
Oh, she's just amazing. And those last 3 books in that series that she did. Oh, wow.
No, I haven't made it there.
Moved me so much. It was so good.
My buddy Tim, and he was in here earlier. I don't know if he's still in here. Timothy Wolf. If I got his books right here and I can find them, I'll grab them. I see them. That's his like ride or die. No chances. Is there another author going to ever compete with Robin Hobb and this gentleman here? Let me through this here. Book 1, Platinum Tinted Darkness. We've got Tears of the Maelstrom with Lizard Man. That's a Lizard Man. That's not his name. That's just what we call him.
I think I just saw that cover somewhere.
Oh, I guarantee you have. And then this is the new one, Age of Arrogance. What a title, right? I think we're living in that. I think we're living in that actually right now.
Could be.
He's a fortune teller. And then the novella bit, from what I understand, Tim, if you're still here, man, is really, really being well received. I've seen that creature in the middle somewhere before. It's like 2 wings with an eye. If I ever see something like that in nature,
run.
Don't hold my scream. You'll see a grown man scream, son. I'm gone. And hopefully I can run faster than you, whoever's with me. Now that's creepy, man. But anyway, Tim loves Robin Hobb. Anything Tim loves, I'm down. I think the biggest thing, just like Malazan, is I know what I'm getting into. Like it's not just the first trilogy. There's 14 books or some shit? 16 books?
There's a bunch, yeah.
Yeah. Slow burns, which I love. I'm a slow burn kind of guy. I love an action-packed, fast-moving novel as well, but I think characters are best portrayed and effective, especially with empathy, if they're steeped with. If I can hang out with a character and really get to know them and think I know them and then be proven wrong or even proven right, it's just so much fun. So I'm very excited about, I'm more excited about Robin Hobb than I am about Steven Erikson. And that's no talking crap about Steven Erikson. They're just 2 different, way different type of books.
Yes, sure. Absolutely.
I love that. So I think that would be an excellent trilogy, Steven.
Yeah. And if I had a fallback, it would be Fiona McIntosh.
Oh, I've never heard.
Yep. There's a lot of people that don't know Fiona.
How do you spell Fiona? Is it Fiona?
Fiona. This was her. This is the book that I got in touch with her on.
Okay.
This was actually the first book that I reviewed for Book Reporter.
Oh, wow.
I was looking for a website back in the day that had some good fantasy reviews. And I went to the Book Reporter site and I looked around and they didn't have any. So I emailed them and their founder, Carol, emailed me back. And I had asked, like, why do you guys not have any fantasy? Like, do you guys just not like fantasy, or
right,
slow month? She said, there's just nobody that wants to do it. Do you want to try?
Really?
So that's how I started writing fantasy reviews for Book Reporter. But I actually got in touch with Fiona after this book. She got sent a copy of the review by the publisher, and so she contacted me, and we ended up engaging back and forth quite a bit. So much so that in the next series that she did, she dedicated the third book to me.
That's incredible.
In the series after that, she dedicated a book to my youngest daughter.
Oh, wow.
Fiona, who was born while that book was being published. So shout out to my daughter, Fiona, who's cool. So she did that. Then she got out of fantasy and she started writing these historical fiction novels, geared toward female readership and things like that.
Okay.
Huge in Australia. She's an absolute beast down there. She's absolutely killed. And she runs.
This? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, what was that?
No, I accidentally interrupted you. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. But she runs a master class for writing down there.
Wow.
And she's working with other people to help them fulfill their dreams. She's really become a big thing. She decided to come back and do one more fantasy set in the world of the first trilogy that I read. And she asked me to kind of like be the guy that was like fact checking to make sure things were right.
Okay.
And then kind of as my reward for that, she wrote me as one of the villains and I got killed. So
oh God.
So if we were able to entice her back to fantasy, it would be fun to do 3 books with her.
That's cool. I love that too, for a lot of reasons, but mostly because as I've discovered reading a lot of self-published and a lot of trad too, like there is so much gold yet to be discovered. And to find that type of influence through an author who I don't recognize, that I want to now, that you can talk about and tell people about and get people interested in their work. I think that's something very special. And I think we're at a time, in the world, in our time right now, modern, current, whatever, that we can bridge those gaps where, hey, I know that you love Colleen Hoover, but I know this self-published author who, works her ass off, does everything herself. And I think you should give her a try. And boom, you read book 1 and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I think we're in a time right now where that's very prevalent.
Yeah.
That's how I'm here. A lot of that stuff is a lot of the books I've read is because, hey, you like James Rollins? Okay, here's an indie author who's going to really get a lot from you reading their work.
Yeah. And the thing that some people have to remember, again, sometimes self-publishing and indie publishing is still fighting this stigma of being lesser.
Sure.
What people sometimes have to remember is that there are moments where it's not so much about being lesser as it's about publishers don't have the time or the money to
Yeah.
publish. They can't. They have to roll the dice on somebody and hope it pays off. And
Which
if
would
they're
be hard.
wrong, yeah, it's all a crapshoot. And some people will take off and they'll do great, and other people will, the first book doesn't sell, the second book doesn't really sell, so they're done. They cut them off. Well, for those people, you either get lucky enough to find another publisher willing to roll the dice on you, or you do it yourself now.
Yeah. But I think it's so cool that that's an option. But one of the things, I hope I make this point super, super fine. I am, and you're part of this list, by the way. I want to let you know that there's people who I'm seeing and actively seeking out and talking with and looking for that are setting that standard among this system that currently has none, which I don't think ever will truly have any standard. It's self-publishing. But they're setting this standard, and like I said, you're part of this group, that to just publish something, to say you have published something, I don't think works for very much longer. I don't think that it's even, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people went down that road.
Yeah. And for some people, that's enough.
Yeah.
And maybe they just want to do it that one time. But
yeah,
for me, like, doing this has been what I have always wanted to do. I've had many other jobs. I've done many other things, but this is where I wanted to be, doing what I want to do. And it's not going to stop.
Yeah. Are you glad that you don't have somebody breathing down your neck telling you how to write your own book?
I am quite a bit.
Great point, Senna.
Yeah. But the only person that really breathes down my neck about how to write my book is me.
Sure. Which is hard.
To be honest, I am a very harsh critic of myself. To be fair, one of the delays for book 2 was caused because I literally had a couple of weeks of just outright panic. Like,
okay.
How can I possibly put out a book as good as the first one?
Okay.
What if I write the second book and it absolutely blows?
It won't. That's not possible. You wrote it, Doug.
Well, that's when George, he read the first part and he goes, if this is how the rest of the book goes, you don't have anything to worry about.
George, I love you, man. You're a great dude.
So George kind of kicked me and got me going. But it was a genuine thought. But that's because of my own harsh critic that lives in my head. And sometimes, they always say, you got to shut him off. Sometimes he doesn't go away so easy.
No. Or ever. Like, I get that. I really do. It's what they would say, classify as the imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
That's real. Holy crap.
Yeah.
A lot of this made up jargon that people talk about every day, I'm not going to say is real or not real because I haven't experienced it. I've experienced imposter syndrome for sure. Sitting down to write a book and then looking up and seeing Stephen King's book right there is like kicking me right in the neck. It's like, do you really think that you can do something that guy does? Because his wallet is like this big.
Yeah.
And I think that at the end of the day, what helps me at least, and I'd love to know what you kind of do to talk yourself out of it, is we're all human. We all started in a similar spot. We all have red blood. If you cut us, we all bleed red. And everybody was at the spot that is successful in this field where you are at the moment, Matt. Yeah. I'm talking to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just go. To respond to Senna there, who said he needs his own George. Everybody needs a George.
Yeah. A guy that's like, oh, this is great, but if it's bad, say, hey, this is kind of shit, man. I know you can do better.
Yeah. If I could quantify it in story terms, George is my Samwise.
Hell yes, that's perfect. I absolutely get that. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's there to support you. He'll tell you when you're doing something wrong, and
You're a good man, George. So, man, I love that. I love that we've gone on some really good topics. What are you working on right now? I know you've touched on it a little bit, but kind of go into it. What are you working on right now, and kind of what's to come for you? What's coming up for you?
Well, right now I am, like I said, just about wrapping up what I'll call my first-ish draft of Plague of Ghosts, which is the follow-up to A Conspiracy of Ravens. Be doing the cleanup on that, cleanup on aisle 12, as it were, get it in tip-top shape, meet George's approval, and then get it through my beta readers. And, the cover's already done. I do have an editor. He's just waiting to get it in his hands to make sure everything's good. Like I said, part of book 3 is already underway.
Okay.
So that'll be coming also soon. The goal is to kind of do these. I'd love to get into a pattern where I can have one full novel done every year. Maybe 2 if they're spaced out far enough. But at least one full novel and maybe a novella. I do have a novella lined out. It takes place in the same universe, only in the past.
Okay.
And those novellas are just kind of going to be like legendary tales.
Oh, that's cool.
Give you background of things that have been hinted at.
Yeah.
So in A Conspiracy of Ravens, there's a pool where there's a fountain, and there's a girl on the fountain, and there's the lake, the Crystalmere Lake that's lit from underneath, and the Tower of Airdrie that they talk about. There's a legend that goes with all of those things.
Okay.
And that novella will tell that legend.
Real quick, Cinepalm, she is an audiobook exclusive reader. Any chance in the future for audio?
I have looked at audio since the beginning. Audio is pricey.
Sure.
And I don't have Brandon Sanderson cash laying around. But I did see you doing some kind of posting up and around about
I need experience, some
audio options. So I think you and I might have to have a discussion or 4 about that.
1000%. I'm glad you said that. It sometimes, like, getting into like the beginnings of knowing that I want to do this is like gaining interest in having people wanting my service, and those kind of things where you saying what you just said lets me know that you're interested, and I'd love to talk about it.
Yeah. But audio has always been a possibility. It's always something I've constantly looked at.
It deserves it, man.
It's never been off the table. Most of it has come down to price. It's just
okay.
It's a price ever.
What's cool about that is, like I said, I'm after experience, and that's a good time to kind of do something with someone that's after experience. So I hope that I'll tell you what I was thinking when I first started the novel. Is like, honestly, one of my first thoughts was this would be an excellent audiobook. Maybe that's just me because I love audiobooks, but this book deserves an audio. And then Cinna can read it, and so many others. There's a lot of people who just do audio. Yeah. Right now, that's a lot of what I do. Not all of it, of course, but having 4 kids, the only time I'm not like getting poked or like spit on or puked on or pooped on is when I'm in bed at night, and I'll throw the earbuds in, and that's kind of what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's so many people,
and that's, I'm not one of these people who, audiobooks aren't reading.
Sure.
Any way you get that story across.
Yeah.
Is a plus, whether people buy it as a book, whether they buy it as an ebook, whether they buy it as an audiobook, doesn't matter to me. The importance is getting the story out there to people who will experience it and hopefully tell other people what they thought about it, how they engaged with it, and get that word spread out, get other people to interact with it, and get a wave going.
Yes, 1000%. I love that. I want to shout out Senna. You've been so giving. Thank you so much. Like, it means the world when you guys do that. It's definitely never necessary. Thank you so much. In fact, it's what helped me be with these shelves and like this equipment stuff. So I just want you guys to know, like, you're helping me build what you're watching right now and what's to come. So that's important to me. And you guys will have a dedication somewhere, some way within all of this. So thank you so much, as well as Grimfell, who is, he's just got it, man. I see this dude on stage with like Metallica someday. His music is incredible. So thank you so much, dude. I'm seeing the pound symbol. This is, we're talking GBP, and right now, what is that, like 2 a.m.? You up at 2 a.m. over there? You dedicated that much to watching The Beard of Darkness, man? I need to send you something, like a book or some bookmarks or something, if you're up at 2 o'clock watching this. That's incredible. Well, man, I'm super excited that we finally got the chance to I had the chance to kind of pick your brain on some things that I was interested in and wanted the particulars on. And you shed a lot of light on your experience with literature, whether it was you starting young, before kindergarten, up until now, and considering audiobooks, or talking about getting it edited or getting a blurb like Christopher Rocchio. It's all very important, and it's a story that all of us, it's very, very valuable. So thank you.
Oh, well, not for nothing, but thank you for, giving me the opportunity to come and have that conversation.
Oh, I'm happy to, man. Absolutely.
This is my third chat that I've had. So,
well, I'm telling you, it's
early on in the list, and I've been watching you for a while. You were one of the few that I've actually latched onto and been watching. The interviews that you do I find very personally engaging.
Thank you.
So, getting the opportunity to come on here and actually talk with you is a win for me. So
honestly, and you can, if it was shit, please say so. Am I decent at kind of keeping people talking? And I honestly just want to know for myself. Would you say that that's something I do well?
Yeah.
I honestly just wanted that feed, because sometimes, like, you hear stuff from your loved ones and you believe them, but I wanted to hear it critically. So I appreciate that so much, man. That means so much to me. Yeah.
No, I think this is great, and I hope. I saw you were doing your push to get your subscriptions going, getting more eyeballs around your socials. So, I'm always happy to toot the horn and get people directed here too. So
thank you.
I have a minimal following as it is, but we're kind of in the same boat there. So, whoever
it just requires work.
Yeah, we just keep on going, and if I get people, and we keep moving.
George, thank you, man. I like knowing about you now and hearing how you are and who you are and who you are for Steven. That's one of the best things that I could hear. I'm not shit. Absolutely. Thank you. I value that. Thank you so much. Grimfell, thank you, brother. Now I'm feeling all like rosy cheeked and shit. Thank you, guys. Here we go. I knew I was missing something. I just remembered it. That's my brain, dude. It just doesn't work the way I want it to. Okay, so all the links, I put the link for the Kindle. It says Kindle Unlimited? It's not Kindle Unlimited.
Not anymore.
But that's okay. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I just mislabeled it. I'm going to fix that right now. But the Kindle version is below. I've got the link for that, the hardcover and the paperback below, as well as your books to read link and your X. If there's any socials I'm missing, would you let me know after this, Stephen?
Yeah, I don't really have any. That's kind of it. There's an Instagram page, but I'm hardly really there.
I'll still put it on there, so I'll find the link to that and put it down there later.
There's just too many.
Yeah, there's a lot, man. It's so much time to keep up. Yeah. It's like between writing and marketing yourself, it's like I could market myself on 15 different apps. We have to choose on which ones best serve me because there's just too many to be on all of them.
Yeah, and
I get it.
I'm investigating and looking at and talking with a couple other different people about the option of getting a website set up.
Okay.
Just kind of like a central hub where I can kind of do everything, get a newsletter going. Also, one of the reasons I kind of like that option is being able to offer people signed copies of things through the
Yes.
website, because I know people do want those things.
Yes.
So it's very early stages of looking into things, but hoping to get
Okay.
that running sooner rather than.
That sounds great. And I'm glad because, by the way, like, I'm one of those readers where if I enjoy your book, I need to have that like signed. And if there's a place where I can go to like a website, because a lot of times it's like if an author doesn't have like a purchase link on their website and their store or something specific like that, it's kind of hard to know if they do signed editions.
Yeah.
So I think your mind's in the right spot, but I just want to thank you so much for letting me borrow you for an hour and 31 minutes. It seems like 5 minutes. It always does.
It goes by
you
fast.
guys, it does.
That's a sign of a good time.
It is 100%. That's why I say 100%. You guys that were here live, you all know this, and you're very, very, very valuable. Thank you so much. It makes it so much more fun having you all asking questions or commenting, throwing topics out, and just showing support. So thank you.
Absolutely.
If you get this,
everybody that showed up.
yes. If you guys catch this on replay, thank you just as much. Thank you so much. Throw a comment down and maybe let us know how you felt about the conversation, maybe your favorite part. And of course, the YouTube stuff. It does help the channel, but it also helps any of the authors I have on, content creators to get more awareness, get more people, more eyes on them. So go ahead and like, share, follow if you're enjoying yourself. I would appreciate it. And so would the authors and creators and anyone else I have on. And let's see, tomorrow, just like every night, I don't know. I have to look at my schedule and I have to let you guys know tonight after this. But it will be definitely posted tonight and tomorrow if I do have a live interview tomorrow. Thank you guys so much. We will talk soon. Stephen, you have a wonderful night, brother.
You too. Thank you.